Welcome to the Bookies Plus weekly betting show where you'll get free NFL picks for week 2 from 3 of our gambling experts. Make sure to check out this show each week throughout the season. Now, you also could find the free picks at Bookies Plus, and the website is bookies.com/picks. You get picks from some very accomplished gambling experts. Not only the NFL picks are there, we got you covered for just about any sport you like to wager on. Again, be sure to bookmark bookies.com/picks. And every Wednesday, we'll be back here on the channel you're currently watching us. This week, we have picks from Adam, the ATM Thompson. You know, Adam is one of the nation's premier handicappers, specializing in NFL, hitting over 60% the last 3 years. We got Nick the Whale Whalen, been in the industry for over a decade, focusing NBA, NFL. You can see him. You've seen him on RotoWire, VSiN, DraftKings as a guest analyst. And I'm Jim Coventry, ready to rock here. And remember, before we begin, don't forget, reminding you, you'll find these picks, other picks, bookies.com/picks. Time to get at it. Adam Thompson, kick us off.
Well, where would we like to begin? We're going to start with the Carolina Panthers. We're going to start in Charlotte. They did not look so good in week 1. 47-10 to a semi-lightly regarded New Orleans Saints team who looked fantastic in all facets. Is New Orleans that good, or are there some issues in Carolina? I'm going to go that route, and I'm taking the Chargers. I'm laying the points on the road. Road favorites. It's kind of a trend for me this week. I'm starting to notice. It's not a terrible trend. Road favorites actually last year finished over 50% against the spread. So it's not like it's a terrible trend, but I'm going with it here. I thought the Chargers looked better than what I thought they were going to. You know, the Raiders offense had some issues. They still held them to 10 points. The Chargers offense ran roughshod over a decent Raiders front seven. Carolina got run roughshod over, so I think Dobbins could have a big game again. If they focus on him, Justin Herbert didn't have to do a whole lot in that win against Vegas. He could do a lot more. That was a nice first game with him and Harbaugh working together. They didn't have to open up the playbook too much. There's more in the tank, I think, with the Chargers. -6. That's a fine number for me, given what we saw Carolina. Usually that's a lot of points to give a road team, in my opinion, but the way Carolina played, you got to prove it at this point, and they didn't prove anything in week 1.
And, you know, one massive deal for Carolina, who I view the only blue chip player on the team, Derek Brown, their defensive end, out for the season with a knee injury, makes that defense significantly worse because he required a double team. Nick Whalen, what you got for us?
Well, first of all, I'm with Adam on the LA Chargers. You know, you might see it at 6.5 right now. If you got it at 6 earlier this week, good for you. I mean, it's as much a fade of the Panthers as it is a bet on the LA Chargers. But I think we saw the script for the Chargers last week, and it was very similar to the script that I think we thought we'd see, right? Which was a limited Justin Herbert. You know, make the throws when you need to, but we're going to try to win this game with defense. We're going to win this game on the ground. If that worked against the Raiders, I think it absolutely works. And I think it travels to Carolina. And like you said, Jim, no Derek Brown for that defense. They're going to have a really tough time. You know, I think the one concern with a number that big is just, you know, I don't see this being a high scoring game overall. I think the Chargers are totally content, you know, putting up 20 points every week. But I also think Carolina is going to struggle, you know, to get to 10 or even 13 on what should be an improved Chargers defense. So I like that. I'm going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys. And, you know, we always say coming out of week 1, you know, you don't want to overreact. You also don't want to underreact. And, you know, I was on the Falcons last week. It was a terrible pick. It was one of those that you just kind of knew was doomed from the start. But yeah, Atlanta had shot after shot after shot to claw back into that game. And the Pittsburgh defense just slammed that door shut. I think they're going to be in a really good spot here going to the Denver Broncos, a team that has struggled in week 2 specifically over the last few years. Sean Payton himself has never been a very good week 2 coach, kind of a niche trend, but something to keep an eye on. You know, you look at the final between the Seahawks and the Broncos last week, and you're like, all right, you know, Denver hung around. Not really, guys. If you watch that game in the late window, Seattle had one of the worst starts to a game I have ever seen. Interception, second play of the game. Two safeties in the first half. A muffed field goal, or excuse me, a muffed kick return later in the first half that set Denver up at the 13-yard line. They handed 10 points to the Denver Broncos. And yeah, Denver did tack on a touchdown late. That was when Seattle was just kind of, you know, trying to run out the clock, you know, playing soft coverage, letting them dink and dunk their way down the field. I didn't see very much at all that I liked from this Denver offense. I thought Bo Nix could have thrown probably 2 or 3 more interceptions on top of the 2 that he already threw. And this Seattle defense, yeah, they should be improved compared to last season. They're not where Pittsburgh is, right? I think this is a game where again, you talk about game script. We saw the script for Pittsburgh to win with Justin Fields on the road in Atlanta last week. I think if that works against the Falcons, that should absolutely work against an even more limited Denver Broncos team. So with this number sitting at 2.5 right now, I like Pittsburgh to win by at least a field goal.
All right, next game is one that I like. I like the Dallas Cowboys to cover 6.5 points at home against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints had the big win last week. We know that that's not who they are. They did play Carolina, but Dallas. Look, Mike Zimmer, the defensive coordinator, he seems to be doing more with the defensive personnel than the team did under Dan Quinn. They're going to be better against the run. They weaponized Micah Parsons, moved him all around the formation. Don't forget, the Saints project to have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and this is going to be Derek Carr under siege. And when that happens, bad things happen for any offense he's a part of. Offensively, look, Marshawn Lattimore's got the hamstring, but even if he plays, they got the two big corners, him and Paulson and Debo. Well, CeeDee Lamb isn't going to engage with them. He's going to be getting slippery open underneath. They're not going to be a factor against him. And Dallas shows they will just spam CeeDee Lamb as long as they have to. And so that said, Dak Prescott, the offensive line in transition, but this is not the New Orleans pass rush of years ago. So look for Dallas at home to put the foot down on the gas and come out and coasting away. Back to Adam Thompson. What do you got for us?
I like your choice of words: weaponizing Micah Parsons, spamming CeeDee Lamb. That's a great way to put
good verbs, Jim.
Yeah, that's you're on top of it. You got your A game today. I'm kind of piggybacking off of Nick too. Pittsburgh Steelers is one of my favorite plays this week. And basically for all the reasons that he said. I think if Seattle's defense can do what they did to the Broncos offense and Knicks, what's Pittsburgh's defense going to do, regardless of location? I think Bo Nix is in a lot of trouble, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers they found how they can win with Justin Fields. They didn't score a lot of points or anything like that. That defense did a lot of work. Defense handled Kirk Cousins, who looked very uncomfortable back there. He didn't have a lot of experience on this team, but they did their work, and Justin Fields and that run game did what they needed to do. And I think they can do what they need to do again in Denver. So -2.5, I think that's a great number. Bonus pick to use my extra time since Nick used all my words in this pick. I do like the Niners this week as another road favorite at Minnesota. McCaffrey may not play again, it sounds like, but Sam Darnold, I think he's gonna have some issues against this San Francisco. They saw the Giants last week that did not test anybody. They're not going to test most teams. It's going to be a different story this week, even at home, and especially without Jordan Addison for the whole game. Justin Jefferson, you can put two guys on him. Make sure Aaron Jones doesn't single-handedly beat you, and they're going to score 30 points and win handily.
Sam Darnold, meet Nick Bosa. It's not going to be a good relationship for the two of you. Nick Whalen, what else you got for us?
Well, guys, overall, I think if you're following our picks so far, we like a lot of favorites, right? And I had a really tough time, parsing week 2 and trying to find dogs that I like. I'm trying to find an argument for the Saints, but I'm with you, Jim. I think they're maybe a little bit overvalued coming off of that Carolina game. And we're going to see, if Carolina lays a couple more eggs in these first couple of weeks, we might have a few teams that are overvalued after they play the Panthers. I'm looking at Bengals Chiefs, and we need to discuss this game, right? I think it's clearly the game of the week, although it feels like some of the luster is already worn off of that because of how poorly the Bengals came out last week. We got the Chiefs as 6-point home favorites right now. Joe Burrow's 3-1 straight up against the Kansas City Chiefs. He always seems to get up for these games. The Bengals are the team that has kind of been the Chiefs' kryptonite, if there is such a thing, over the last couple of years. But I'm curious to get your thoughts as far as, do you think the Bengals can hang around in this game? My play is the under 47.5. And I think you look at Kansas City and you're like, man, this offense, it feels like it's back to being explosive. You got Xavier Worthy out there. I think if you view this as a relatively close game, a game that the Bengals could either win straight up or even cover the 6, I don't think it's because it's a shootout. I don't know if the Bengals right now, with T. Higgins unlikely to be out there in week 2, I don't know if the Bengals are capable of playing in a shootout. I think that they need this game to be played in the low 20s. So I like the under 47.5 here. If you think Cincinnati competes, I still haven't fully made up my mind. I got to do a little more research on this one, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on this huge game in the late window.
From the X's and O's standpoint, Nick, you're on it, because in reality, you can't make a concrete case for the Bengals coming in and doing well offensively. You've got to go the narrative route to do that, and that's a tricky slope. The narrative route is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase don't want to be embarrassed in a high-profile game against this team, and they come out and do everything they can. That's a narrative. That's not based in fact And it may not be based in reality. Could it happen? Yes. But you're going with logic here, and logic is what we have to do when we're handicapping. Adam, you got any thoughts on that one?
No, you said it. Joe Burrow, they showed him on the sidelines a couple times, holding his wrist and kind of flexing his wrist and doing stuff. So something's going on there that he may not be 100% healed, or but they need to get him out there. But the run game, he's not getting that support. Jamar Chase by himself is just, he got really frustrated out there without Higgins to take away anything. So yeah, if KC does what they do, and that score, high 20s or more, can Cincy keep up? I don't think so. So I agree. I think it's going to be 27-13, kind of around the 40 mark, and I think Kansas City covers.
My next pick is the Seahawks -3.5 against the Patriots. And this would be an interesting one because the Patriots, I think, are going to get a lot of credit for their big win over the Bengals. But like Nick pointed out, what are the Bengals right now? I don't think it was any great shakes. The Patriots beat them. And I changed my survivor pick out the day before because I didn't think that they were actually going to win the game, and they didn't. Now that said, so we said the Patriots get that when they caught Cincy at the right time. I get it. But Cincy's offseason, the drama kind of caught up with them. Now, New England, they ran the ball down the throats of the defense last week. But Cincinnati's defense, no DJ Reader. They were already bad. It was a layup for them. This week, completely different story. Seattle was completely dominant on the run defense against the Broncos. Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, they got nothing going on here. And if the Patriots can't run the ball, am I really trusting Jacoby Brissett and those receiving options against what could be a decent Seattle secondary and a decent pass rush? And that offensive line in New England is garbage. Now, on the other side of the ball, you got Geno Smith. And when Geno Smith doesn't have time, it's a big problem. Well, that's not going to be a problem. Christian Barmore, unfortunately, had the blood clots on the NFI list. Matthew Judon was traded away. They don't have a credible pass rush. Geno is going to have time, and if he has time, he has a great trio of weapons. Yeah, the Seahawks are coasting in this one. All right, let's circle back around the horn. One more from Adam Thompson.
Let's go Jets. I went Jets week 1. That didn't work. So let's go back to the well. That did not pan out. Obviously, a different level of opponent. Going at San Francisco, Aaron Rodgers' first meaningful snap in a long time. And they got throttled by a better team. I don't think they were ready for it. I blame the coaching a little bit and the scheme. I thought they just did not come out. They got out coached. But I think things are going to be different here. They're taking on a Titans team that had a 17-3 lead against a Bears team that they completely shut down, dominated in every way, and they still ended up losing by a touchdown. The Jets are going to be angry. They're going to be hyped. They're going to be very motivated to turn things around very quickly, and they have the roster to do it. I think this is one of the top 5 most talented rosters on paper in the league. They just need to prove it, and this is a good get-back opponent for them. So, is Will Levis, once the Bears put pressure on him, he folded. And the Jets are going to bring pressure immediately, much more so than Chicago did. So I think the Jets roll at Tennessee. They're laying 3.5 points. I think that's a fine number to cover.
Nick, before I get your last pick, I'm with Adam as my last pick on the Jets. So let me just pile on a little bit. I'm not going to add a whole lot because everything Adam said was spot on. The thing I want to point out was last week, the Titans were all in Caleb Williams' face. They were in the backfield every time he dropped back. It was the simulated pressures that the new defensive coach, Denard Wilson, learned from Mike McDonald, who we coached with on the Ravens. Well, this week, if simulated pressures are great, Aaron Rodgers has seen it all. You're not going to confuse Aaron Rodgers. So that's another element to this game. That defensive effort the Titans got, that's not working here. The talent's not enough. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are going to dominate. Nick, give us your last pick.
All right. First of all, guys, I like the call on the Jets. My only concern with New York is that tree a little too narrow offensively? Like for fantasy, it's great. If you're a Garrett Wilson or a Breece Hall fantasy manager, it's like, all right, literally everything is going to them, which was the case, early in that San Francisco game. But they need somebody. I guess maybe it's Alan Lazard, but they need somebody else to emerge alongside those two, because I think if Tennessee can succeed in throwing L'Jarius Sneed, on Garrett Wilson, if you can limit him, all of a sudden, that tree dries up pretty quickly for the Jets. But I'm certainly not going to go against Adam and Jim when you guys are both on the Jets. I'm going to go to another favorite here, guys. Houston in Sunday night here, -6.5 against the Chicago Bears. Part of it is Houston home opener. Offense looked great last week, controlled the clock. 40 minutes to 20 minutes was the time of possession in favor of the Houston Texans last week against Indy. They ran like 30, 35 more plays than the Colts. I think that was somewhat of a false final, right? It was like, good on the Colts to get that cover. You needed an insane run by Anthony Richardson on a 4th and goal. He plowed over like 3 defenders. He's the only quarterback in the league who pushes that in for a touchdown just to make that a close game. The Colts completed 5 50-plus yard passes in that game. Anthony Richardson only had 9 completions. Like I think Houston dominated that game to a level that the final score did not indicate. And I think they have a pretty good matchup here against Chicago. Now, the Bears have a good defense. I don't think Joe Mixon is going to run wild like he did in week 1, but I think it's really encouraging to see the distribution from the Houston Texans early on, right? I mean, this was kind of the dream scenario, right? If you're invested in Tank Dell or Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs, all 3 of those guys ate to various degrees, right? For Diggs, it was the touchdowns. For Nico Collins, it was the catches and the yards. Tank Dell, kind of being the 3rd guy. I think you're happy with the output there as well. It's a lot to keep track of if you're the Chicago defense. And as we saw last week, it's like, yeah, maybe you expect, I should say, a step forward from Caleb Williams in his 2nd NFL start, but this is his 1st start on the road in primetime, coming off of a game where he just kind of looked rattled from start to finish. Yeah, if Keenan Allen brings in that touchdown in the corner of the end zone, maybe that puts a little lipstick on the pig and it makes his line look better. But I think Houston is going to be champing at the bit here. I think this is a really good spot for that Texans offense to kind of control this game. And are the Bears going to get a flick return for an interception? Are they going to get a special teams touchdown as well? It's like, can we really expect the Bears offense to score, I would say at max, more than 2 touchdowns in this game? Probably not. And I think Houston can, weekly easily, get to 20, 25 points minimum. So I think if you think Houston's going to score in that 25 to 30 range, I just don't trust Chicago's offense to keep up without some of the fluky plays that carried them in week 1.
I wonder if Williams has ever played in a dome before either. Prime time dome.
Yeah. I'm sure he has at some point, right? I don't know, like Big 12 championship game with Oklahoma. I don't know, but either way, it's a fair point. I mean, he's never played an NFL road game, is what it comes down to, right? And again, I think he'll be better than he was last week, but how much better? He's not going to make this dramatic week over week leap. I don't think Roma Dunze is going to be out there. I think that hurts Chicago. Keenan Allen was banged up, limping around at the end of that game. I know the Bears are saying he's fine, but we'll see. I mean, he's 32 years old. He's always liable to re-injure that. So there are plenty of things here pushing me in favor of the Texans. As long as that number stays under 7, I'm on Houston.
All right, let's recap things here. So we had Adam Thompson, the Steelers -3, Chargers -6, and the Jets -3.5. Nick Whalen agrees on the Chargers -6, also throws in the Texas -6.5, under on the Cincinnati KC game. I went with the Cowboys -6.5, Seahawks -3.5. And I agreed with Adam with the Jets -3.5. Be sure to bookmark bookies.com/picks so you can check out our free picks for both the NFL and other sports. There will be a new episode of the show every Wednesday for the remainder of the NFL season. For Adam Thompson, for Nick Whalen, I'm Jim Coventry. Good luck in all your betting ventures.